Okay, now this, y'all know how we try to show y'all something different in our videos usually. And Danny and I, we seem to be handling that different thing pretty good. Go camping with shortwave radios and junk. Different kinds of guns. We wanted to show you something. Now, I know I've mentioned to you guys before in some of our other videos about kettle bottoms. Now, this is something that that coal miners had to deal with. And it's basically, it's the fossilized remnant of a tree. And if you look, you can see the wood grain, you know, in this. You can tell that this is a fossilized section of tree. Now, why do we have this here? This one's been coated in urethane. Danny preserved it, and you'll find out why here just in a second. Danny is the only person we've heard of hundreds, if not thousands, of coal miners who have been killed when these kettle bottoms, so when you're mining coal and you go underneath these fossilized tree roots, they can come loose, they drop out. And, you know, like I mentioned in the other video specifically about coal mining and kettle bottoms and stuff, if you were the lucky guy, okay, if you were the lucky one, you got hit by these big kettle bottoms and you got smashed instantly if you were the lucky guy. If you were the unlucky guy, you got stuck, you got trapped behind these things, and well, I can imagine you guys know what's going to happen in just a short matter of time. Danny right here is the only human that I personally know of who has been hit in the head while mining by a kettle bottom and survived it. He's the only person that I know of, that I've ever heard of, to be hit in the head while mining with a kettle bottom and walk away. Now, he wants to show you something here. Check this out.
Yeah, I was wanting to tell you about the day that this happened, just a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I was doing track violations on a main line, mining, in a mine in Walman County, West Virginia. And I've been there for 14 years or so. And one afternoon I was doing violations to clear up violations that the inspector had found. And I was walking down this entry, and all at once, from nowhere, out of the top came this piece, and another piece was on this, and it broke when it hit my head. This light right here, which it busted, it landed on the light. It knocked the hat off my head, and this came apart in two different sections. There's another piece on top of that, another 4 or 5 inches.
Yeah.
So this one here, I weighed it. It weighs 26 pounds. This piece does.
Yeah, it felt pretty heavy.
And so when that happens, when you find a kettle bottom, you have to correct it because it could fall out on someone. So we had to set a timber under it to support it until we get a roof boulder under it. So,
the timbers, we were talking about that. Can you know what what I'm thinking, right? The bind props and stuff.
Yeah, about sizes. And stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they use them for support, for temporary support, for different mines, for different heights. Because the height of coal that I worked in was around 6 feet. That's the height that I worked in. So they would order them type of size timbers for say 72 inches to 7 foot.
Right.
You know, for them.
Of what kind of wood?
Well, mostly they would use poplar, because poplar was a type of wood that would let you know when the roof was going to come down on your head. They would pop and crack. Harder wood would not much let you know that.
Settles like metal or something.
Right, and then it'd be on you. Now poplar would bust and crack and make all kind of noise before
Right.
it comes down.
Sort of a warning.
Right.
Give you a little bit of a heads up.
Right. So I feel that God spared me that day
No doubt.
from death, because if that had been another inch back, it would, like Leo said, it would have broke my neck and killed me right there, like many other coal miners had done.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mentioned that in one of the videos. There's a big kettle bottom sticking out of a mountainside, and I mentioned that in one of the videos about how many people have been killed by these things over the years. And I had no idea until you mentioned this yesterday that you had brought this thing, you know.
Yeah, I brought it from out of the mines. We worked right at 1,000 feet underground down an elevator. We went down an elevator shaft 1,000 feet.
1,000 feet down, guys.
Just to get down, and just think how far down this was a tree, was a forest at one time,
Yeah,
thousands of years ago.
yeah.
It's just hard to me to
Yeah,
fathom that.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Pangea.
Yeah. But this is the exact hat I was wearing that day that saved my life. The light was on it like this, and it had hit right here and knocked that plumb to the ground, and this landed on the light and busted it badly, and the hat was knocked off of my head. But I was not hurt, didn't go to the hospital, didn't have to go, just was blessed to
Very
come
lucky.
out of it with something like
Yeah.
that. This has killed many good men right here.
Yes, it has. Yes, yes. There have been a lot of people, guys, killed over the years by these things.
And that's much heavier than a rock.
Yes, it
isn't
is. Yes, it is. It is. It's considerably heavier. It weighs, it feels like it weighs about as much as a cinder block.
Yeah, it's 20. I weighed it today. Yesterday. It was yesterday. My wife said, "What are you doing with my bathroom scales out here outside?" I said, "Well, I was weighing this this kettle bottom, and it does. It weighs 26 pounds, and the other one weighs a little bit, about 31 pounds. So it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
That was sliced off of this. When it hit the ground, it just come apart. So the whole thing hit me.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then when it hit the ground, it come apart.
Yeah. About 60 pounds worth of rock altogether, give or take.
Fell from, I think it was around 9 feet, 9 to 11 feet it fell from.
Uh-huh. You are lucky, Danny.
Yeah, I'm
You are
blessed with what
lucky,
I am.
brother.
So we thought we'd let you see that.
Yeah.
what was-
Kind of brings it home, don't it? You know, you hear that, you know, a lot of people have been killed by these kettle bottoms, but until you actually see one and hear, you know, hear Danny's story.
Yeah. See, my dad had told me, he said, "Son, says when you go in that old mines, he said, I don't want you to go. He said, but you watch out for them rib rolls and them kettle bottoms. He said, that's took as many good men as you'd ever see." So,
And a
One
rib
step.
roll?
rib roll.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to know what a rib roll
Yeah,
is?
yeah, yeah. We got
Okay,
to do that.
A rib is the side of the coal seam as you go down an entry.
Right, the wall basically?
The wall.
Okay.
And what would happen is called fluffing. As the mountain weighs down on that seam of coal, it bulges it out, pushes it out in the walkway. And then under there, it'll be like hollowed out, like a cliff,
Right.
say. And that's normally what happened. But if you're walking down through there and you just happen to be at the right time, that rib will push out on you and kill you. Could just roll right out on you and cover you
Oh,
up.
I see why it's called a rib roll now.
Yeah.
I get that. I get that. That
Yes.
makes sense.
So when they roll out like that, usually leaves out a overhang. So then we have to set a timber under that
To prop that
legal.
up now.
Make that legal.
Yeah.
Right.
Huh. I guess. It's a dangerous job, ain't it?
Yes, it is. I'm glad I went them years and was never seriously injured.
Yeah.
I had a lot of close calls. I worked track for about 10 years, and then I was a electrician for a few years, and then I went to the plant.
Yeah.
This right here will do you in, people.
Yeah.
So you young guys are just making your red hats. Y'all watch, and this is something else about these things, is when they're fresh cut in the top with like a miner cuts the top,
Mhm.
it's hard to see them when they're freshly cut. But after a few days, the moisture sets in on the top because of sweating. We're so hot in the summer. You'll get a ring up here,
Right.
right at the side.
The shape of this.
of this will be a ring up here, and then you'll see it, and then you have to take care of it. A lot of times, a lot of people walk right under it, not even see it,
Yeah.
and then that's what had happened to me
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Nobody'd seen it, but
Yeah.
I did when it fell on my head.
Yeah. 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 Well, you discover them then, don't you? You
Yeah.
discover them then.
Yeah,
That's for
you do.
sure. But anyway, guys, we just wanted to show y'all this. I mean, you know, Danny brought this to show y'all this. You know, like I said, I've mentioned the kettle bottoms before, and he mentioned he'd spotted that in one of our videos, and that he had a kettle bottom, and that he had actually been hit with one. And like I said, Danny, you're the only person
Leo,
I've
this
ever
is your
heard
half,
of.
brother. I got the other half. This is yours to take home with you.
Oh, really?
Yes. if you
Really?
want.
Really?
I've got the other half of it at home.
I've got the perfect spot picked out for him. I sure do. I'll put. He goes by the mailbox.
By the mailbox. Yeah, he's usually an outside thing,
Yeah, he's an
isn't
out. He looks like an outside rock to me. He don't look like he wants to be inside the house very much.
No. But there's a lot of them in the mines that you never see. You never
Yeah.
see them
Oh,
things.
yeah. Yeah. Well, most people don't realize it. You know, when you get underground, how many fossilized trees are actually underground?
See, sometimes these things are laying sideways.
Yeah.
laying
Yeah.
this
The one that I did the video on was one that was laying
This
sideways.
is not. It was standing straight up. It's like
Right.
it was rolling in the ground.
Which is even worse because they come out
Hey,
in like a tube.
And when they pin him, you know, when you use a timber, you set them in the center. But like when they pin them with a plate, they don't screw it up to the center of this. They screw it up to the side of it, because if you do it through the center, it could fall out way up in there above the pin.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so they'll put the pin beside
And knock
this.
the whole thing out.
Right. So
I get it. Yeah, they'll come in and wedge it into the rock.
Right. So
Okay.
it won't come out.
Okay, okay. I wonder how many people, though, in all reality, have been killed by kettle
lots
bottoms
of
mining coal.
Lots of them back in the day. There
Yeah.
were lots of them.
From what I've read, from what we've read, it was a very, very, very common occurrence.
Yeah, it's staggering. If you research it, I've looked
Yeah.
at it. I forget what it was now, but there's a lot of people that's lost their lives with them things.
Yeah. And that's actually a small one. That's a small one. I've seen them.
I've seen them a lot bigger than that.
Yeah.
That we've supported.
Yeah, I saw one. Somebody, I'm not sure where it was. It was on Facebook, I think it was. Had an 800-pound kettle bottom. I mean, it was a great big old thing, you know. Truck.
I didn't take it that day. It was a few days later before I
Yeah,
I took that home with me, because it scared me bad that day.
I bet it did. I bet it did. I can see that.
Yeah,
you
it
know,
scared me bad.
and
that
then
day.
having to go back in the same coal mine the next day.
Yeah, you're looking up a lot then.
I bet you are.
So you get complacent. You're doing the same thing every day, and you're
Yeah.
supposed to be looking. But I was just
Yeah.
looking everywhere, but you can't see them all.
That's true. That's true. That's why they call it one of the most dangerous jobs on earth, right there.